Hello, Royal Watchers. Brew a fresh pot of Earl Grey, silence the group chat, and lean in. Today we're blowing dust off a stash of leaked papers that once sent Buckingham Palace into DEFCON 1. Picture it. Summer 2009, Britain in the grip of a credit crunch, Susan Boyle topping the charts, and deep inside the palace filing cabinets lurk documents hinting that Prince William, then a 20-something helicopter fanatic, could leapfrog his long-suffering father and become the next monarch. 13 years before Harry and Meghan broke the internet, this was the rumor that had courtiers clutching their pearls. When newspapers ruled the realm. Back then, Twitter was a toddler and TikTok merely a glint in Silicon Valley's eye. The royal news cycle revolved around inky broadsheets, and the Mail on Sunday loved nothing more than a front-page grenade. Their scoop? A paper trail showing William and Harry were suddenly logging a lot more public engagements for the Queen, garden party walkabouts, medal pinning, school openings, the works, while Charles's own future rota looked suspiciously slim. Columnists dubbed it Operation Handover. Katie Nicholl fired up her keyboard for a blockbuster biography, and the phrase Shadow King blazed across breakfast tables from Cornwall to the Cairngorms. Inside the palace, the reaction was biblical. Press secretaries arranged emergency huddles, private secretaries sprinted between courtyards, the Queen's corgis allegedly barked in solidarity. A statement thundered forth insisting no generation skipping will take place. William's own spokesman went one better: His Royal Highness will not be Shadow King. Full stop, no wiggle room, thank you for your time. Yet the documents remained. Hard numbers in neat columns proving William and Harry were about to shoulder a heavier share of Granny's diary. Royal Watchers muttered that there's never smoke without at least a small smouldering log. William, reluctant heir, adrenaline junkie. Here's the twist. The man allegedly plotting to sidestep tradition wanted nothing to do with it. Friends say William was downright allergic to the idea of exchanging flight suits for ermine. He'd just completed Sandhurst, flirted with deployment to Afghanistan, vetoed by ministers fearing a royal hostage crisis, and had transferred to the Royal Air Force to chase his dream of search and rescue. In downtime, he gorged on documentaries about Coast Guard rescues and could identify helicopter models by rotor whistle alone. One courtier recalls him scanning a Jane's Defence Weekly during a state banquet and whispering, "I'll take turbine chatter over table talk any day." The prospect of becoming Britain's youngest king since Victoria. Couldn't think of anything worse, he reportedly sighed to a friend at Bougis nightclub. Even Charles, patiently waiting in the world's longest apprenticeship, wasn't angling for a sudden job swap. He'd spent decades perfecting organic sheep pastures in Gloucestershire and lobbying governments about climate change. To be leapfrogged now, just as global warming finally hit the G20 agenda, would have been a cosmic joke of Shakespearean cruelty. The Iron Duke incident. While Fleet Street roared, William slipped into a Navy uniform and shipped out to the Caribbean on HMS Iron Duke. Less than a week later the vessel seized 900 kilos of cocaine, street value £40 million, that's north of 60 in today's money. William was aboard a Lynx, mapping suspect speedboats while a sniper steadied his rifle mere feet away. One gusty banking turn, one glint of sun off a wave, and the future king could have been swallowed by the Atlantic. Yet the raid was textbook. U.S. Coast Guard operatives stormed the smuggler's deck, the contraband was hauled up in mesh nets, and William touched down looking like he'd just aced a theme park ride. Commander Mark Newland hailed the bust as the smashing start. Tabloids lost their collective mind. Prince Nab's narcotics and palace aides, for once, enjoyed a front-page splash that wasn't about constitutional chaos. Helicopters, blue light sirens, and the search for purpose. Back in Britain, William's appetite for rotor blades only intensified. In 2015, he joined the East Anglian Air Ambulance, clocking night shifts that began with 2 a.m. dispatches and ended with bacon rolls in fluorescent vests. Locals still tell the story of His Highness apologizing because his helicopter downdraft scattered their recycling. Terribly sorry. Hope I didn't nick your wheelie bin. These sorties weren't ceremonial stunts, they were high-stakes medevacs. On one fog-laden dawn, William navigated through zero visibility to evacuate a car crash victim, an incident paramedics later called miraculous. Every shift reinforced his belief that life meant more at 500 feet, with a heart monitor screaming than in ballrooms stacked with tiaras. Meanwhile, behind Buckingham curtains, Charles's team, still stung by the Shadow King headlines, embarked on a subtle PR counteroffensive, ramp up the Prince of Wales's eco-warrior credentials, broadcast his speeches on deforestation, spotlight his rural charities. The message was clear: Charles is indispensable. With each posh rubber boot stomp through muddy farmland, the future monarch clawed back narrative ground. And Queen Elizabeth II. She carried on with sphinx-like calm. Insiders say she never entertained skipping Charles. Her vow had always been to serve my whole life, whether it be long or short, and that included stewarding a seamless succession. Still, she recognized the value of letting William practice frontline duties under her watchful eye, hence the uptick in royal gigs for the brothers. The slow-motion handover. Fast forward to July 2017. After 2 adrenaline-soaked years in the air ambulance, William hangs up the headset and pivots to full-time royal grind. It's not a sudden coronation, more a carefully choreographed merge lane onto the firm's motorway. Ribbon cuttings, mental health summits, earthshot brainstorming, a sprinkling of glamorous galas. Slowly, the public recalibrates. Yes, he's the chopper prince, but he's also the man representing the crown at Commonwealth services while Charles preps climate change dossiers for COP21. This incremental shift shows why the 2009 leak mattered. It wasn't proof of a skipped generation, it was the monarchy testing ways to future-proof itself. In a world of 24-hour feeds and Netflix exposés, the Windsors realized they needed heirs who could fly a rescue mission one week and pink-face a posh diplomat the next. Echoes in the present day. Jump to last week. Eagle-eyed paparazzi snap Meghan, and Harry's press secretary grabbing a coffee with Charles's communications chief. Instantly, whispers of a peace summit flood social media. Deja vu. Absolutely. Only now, the rumor intersects with earlier scars. If Charles couldn't be sidestepped then, could William be sidestepped now if he won't sit at the reconciliation table? The working royal workload is once again in flux, and every scroll-happy royal watcher feels their pulse spike. A throne built on compromise. History suggests the crown rarely does sharp detours. Abdication in 1936 aside, the line of succession is a locomotive, slow to accelerate, impossible to derail with a single tabloid exposé. But the leaks of 2009 did nudge the palace to modernize: more flexible job shares, mental health initiatives, Zoom audiences from Windsor during a pandemic. A monarchy that once communicated via parchment now drops Instagram likes faster than a teenager on 5G. Even Charles's climate crusade, once mocked as talking to trees, is mainstream policy. For William, the great compromise was trading rota wash for royal diaries. Yet the skills he honed, split-second decision-making, crisis triage, teamwork, translate beautifully to palace life. Court watchers say his meetings run with military efficiency, agendas at 0800, action points logged, outcomes measured. You can take the prince out of the cockpit, but you can't take the cockpit out of the prince. A legacy written in both ink and jet fuel. So, were those 2009 documents a near miss, or a nothing burger? Probably both. They didn't herald a skipped reign, but they did foreshadow a crown that would evolve by stealth rather than shock. They also gifted William a narrative far richer than future king. He became the prince who intercepted £40 million of cocaine, the pilot who calmed crash victims, the advocate who spearheaded heads together. And every time a new royal leak splashes headlines,